If you're holding XRP right now, what you're about to hear might change how you look at your bags for the rest of this year. There's a well-known market analyst who just came out and said something that's splitting the community right down the middle. He's saying XRP does not need the Clarity Act to hit $10. According to his technical analysis, not might not need it, not eventually, he's saying the chart is already telling the story on its own, right now, without a single vote happening in Washington. Stick around because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what he's looking at, what price levels actually matter this week, and why some traders think the real move has already started while everyone else is still watching the news. Here's the backdrop you need first. For most of this year, the entire XRP conversation has revolved around one piece of legislation, the Clarity Act. The idea has been simple. Once US regulators lay out clear rules, big institutional money finally feels safe entering XRP, and the price could take off from there. It's a reasonable theory, and a lot of smart people believe in it. But an analyst who goes by Dark Defender just threw a wrench into that whole timeline. His argument is that XRP's chart doesn't care what Congress does. He thinks the setup for a major rally could already be sitting there in the price action itself, and waiting on a bill to pass might mean missing the early part of the move entirely. So what is he actually pointing at? Dark Defender says XRP has entered Wave 5. That's a term from Elliott Wave Theory, a way traders map out market cycles using 5 upward waves followed by 3 pullback waves. Wave 5 is the one people pay attention to because it's usually the final leg of a bullish run, and it tends to move fast once it gets going. If his read is correct, XRP just wrapped up its most recent weekly correction, meaning the pullback is done and the next leg higher could already be underway. That's a very different message than wait for the news. That's a message of this might already be happening. In his own post, Dark Defender put it plainly, saying XRP is launching Wave 5 without the Clarity Act, that the weekly correction is finished, and that double-digit prices are the expectation from here. What stands out is that he's not hedging this on political outcomes at all. He's treating the Clarity Act almost like a bonus, not a requirement. And that reframe matters, because it means people who were sitting on the sidelines waiting for a headline out of Washington might be waiting for something the chart has already decided to do without them. Let's talk actual numbers, because this is where it gets real. At the time this call was made, XRP was sitting around $1.12. Getting to $10 from there is close to an 800% move. That's the kind of number that sounds almost unreasonable until you remember XRP has pulled off huge multiples before in past cycles. This is one analyst's projection, not a guaranteed outcome, and it's worth keeping that in mind before anyone gets too attached to a specific number. But when an analyst with a following puts a target like that on the table, it tends to get people checking their charts a lot more closely than usual. Now here's something that data actually backs up, and it's worth pausing on. XRP has been coiling inside a symmetrical triangle for weeks. If you've watched enough charts, you know this pattern shows up right before volatility spikes. And it doesn't just apply to crypto, you see the same behavior in stocks and Forex too. The range keeps getting tighter, buyers and sellers keep squeezing closer together, and eventually something has to give. That's exactly the setup traders get excited about, because a tight coil like this one has historically preceded some of XRP's sharpest moves, in either direction. Before anyone gets carried away dreaming about $10, there's a much closer target worth watching first, and that's the $2 level. Think of this as the checkpoint. If XRP can push through $2 with real volume behind it, that could be the first real piece of evidence that buyers are back in control and that this bigger move has legs. Skip past $2 on low volume or fail to hold above it, and that changes the picture completely. This is the number serious traders are actually watching this week. Not $10, not 800%, just $2. Because that's the level that tells us if the bigger story even has a chance to play out. Something people often get wrong about crypto predictions is treating them like they exist in a vacuum. They don't. XRP's next move is going to be shaped by more than just its own chart. Bitcoin's trend, overall market liquidity, interest rate decisions, and general risk appetite across financial markets all play a role. Even a perfect-looking technical setup can stall out if the broader market suddenly turns risk off. So while Wave 5 and the triangle pattern give us a roadmap, they're not operating in isolation, and that's exactly why patience matters here more than excitement. Let's be fair to the other side of this story too, because the Clarity Act genuinely matters, even if it's not the only path to $10. Some estimates suggest the right regulatory framework could unlock trillions in institutional capital that's currently sitting on the sidelines waiting for legal certainty. That's not a small deal. So even if Dark Defender is right that XRP doesn't need this bill to reach $10, passage of the act could still act like adding gasoline to a fire that's already burning. This isn't really an either-or situation. It's two separate catalysts that happen to be pointing in the same direction at the same time. Here's a pattern worth noticing if you've followed XRP for a while. This community has seen bold price predictions before, plenty of them, and not all of them aged well. That history is exactly why healthy skepticism belongs in this conversation. Elliott Wave analysis is a tool professional traders genuinely rely on, but it works with probability, not certainty. Wave counts can get relabeled. Corrections can extend longer than expected. What looks like wave 5 today could turn into an extended fourth wave tomorrow if new data comes in. None of that means the analysis is worthless. It just means treating any single prediction as a sure thing is where people get burned. What makes this moment genuinely interesting isn't the $10 number itself, it's the shift in how people are framing XRP's path forward. For most of this year, the assumption was regulation first, rally second. Now there's a real argument forming that the rally could show up first, with regulation just confirming it later. That's a meaningful change in mindset for anyone holding this asset, because it means watching price action and volume might matter more right now than watching the news cycle out of Washington. If you want to actually track this yourself instead of just taking anyone's word for it, here's what to watch. Keep an eye on whether XRP breaks above $2 with strong volume, not just a quick wick that fades. Watch whether Bitcoin stays stable or trends up, since XRP historically struggles to break out during broad market weakness. And watch for any confirmation that the recent correction is genuinely finished, meaning price holds above its recent lows instead of dipping back below them. Those three things together would line up with what Dark Defender is describing, and they're all things you can verify yourself on any basic charting platform. It's also worth remembering that price targets like $10 tend to get more attention than the reasoning behind them, and that's backwards. The number is exciting, sure, but the reasoning is what actually helps you make decisions. A completed correction, a tightening triangle, and a wave count suggesting a new impulsive leg are all specific checkable claims. $10 is just where that reasoning could lead if everything plays out. Understanding the why means you're not just hoping for a number, you're actually watching for confirmation or invalidation as new candles print on the chart. So here's where things actually stand. XRP could be entering wave 5 according to this analysis. The recent weekly correction looks complete, and a symmetrical triangle pattern suggests volatility is building. The number to watch this week is $2, not 10. If that breaks with volume, the bigger picture gets a lot more credible. If it doesn't, this whole thesis needs a second look. Either way, whether the Clarity Act passes or not, according to this analysis, momentum may not have to wait around for permission from anyone. If this kind of breakdown is useful to you, the best thing you can do is stick around for the next one, because these setups tend to resolve fast once they start moving, and you don't want to be catching up after the fact. Drop your own take in the comments. Tell me if you're watching $2 or waiting for 10, and I'll be back with the next update as soon as this chart gives us something new to talk about. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.